The crowd was cheering as Staff Sergeant Mike Torres marched down Main Street in his dress uniform. Then the young man stepped into the street, pointed directly at Mike, and screamed into his megaphone, "You're not a hero, you're a killer. How many Iraqi children did you murder?" Welcome back to Heroes Forgotten, the channel that exposes the truth about how America treats its veterans. I'm your host, and today's story will shock you. It's about a decorated soldier, a viral video, and a secret that could destroy lives if it ever came out. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. The smartphone cameras turned toward Mike instantly. Within minutes, the video would be uploaded to social media. Within hours, it would have 1 million views. By the next morning, Mike Torres would be the most hated veteran in America. Before we continue, write in the comments how old you are and what city you're from. Mike Torres had served 3 tours in Iraq between 2004 and 2009. At 38, he worked as a supervisor at a construction company in Riverside, California, and lived quietly with his wife Elena and their 2 children. He rarely talked about the war, even with family. The Memorial Day parade was Elena's idea. "You should be proud of your service," she told him. "The kids should see their father honored for what he did for our country." Mike had reluctantly agreed to march with the local veterans group. He'd worn his dress uniform, the one with the bronze star and Purple Heart ribbons. Elena and the kids watched from the sidewalk, waving small American flags. The parade route stretched 8 blocks through downtown Riverside. Mike marched with 12 other Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, acknowledging the crowd's applause with modest nods. Most of the spectators were supportive, holding signs that read, "Thank you, veterans, and welcome home, heroes." Everything changed at the intersection of Main and 5th Street. Dylan Walsh stepped out of the crowd. 26 years old, he was a graduate student at UC Riverside who'd built a social media following by confronting what he called war criminals at public events. He carried a megaphone and wore a t-shirt that read, "No war for oil." "Staff Sergeant Torres," Dylan shouted, reading Mike's name tag. "How does it feel to be celebrated for killing innocent people?" Mike kept marching, eyes forward. He dealt with protesters before. "Answer me." Dylan moved alongside the marching veterans, his megaphone amplifying his voice across the entire crowd. "How many children died because of you? How many families did you destroy?" Other veterans in the formation looked uncomfortable. The crowd's cheering died down. Parents covered their children's ears. Mike stopped marching. He turned to face Dylan, his expression calm but his hands clenched into fists. "Son, you don't know what you're talking about. I know you invaded a sovereign country. I know you participated in an illegal war." Dylan was shouting now, his phone recording everything. "I know you're responsible for the deaths of innocent civilians." Mike's jaw tightened. "You weren't there. You don't know what we did or why we did it. I know you're a killer, and I know this community is celebrating a war criminal." The crowd was dead silent now. Every smartphone in sight was recording. Mike could see Elena in the crowd, her face pale with shock. His 8-year-old daughter was crying. Mike took a step toward Dylan. For a moment, it looked like he might lose control. The veteran was 6 inches taller and 50 pounds heavier than the young protester. His military training was evident in the way he moved. But Mike stopped himself. He looked at his daughter's tears, at his wife's horrified expression, at the cameras recording every second. "I served my country," Mike said quietly. "I did my duty, and I'm proud of my service." "Proud of murder," Dylan screamed. "Proud of destroying families. Proud of—" "That's enough." Mike's voice carried the authority of someone who'd commanded soldiers in combat. "You want to protest the war? That's your right. But don't you dare question the honor of the men and women who served." Dylan stepped closer, emboldened by the cameras and the crowd's attention. "Honor? You call killing children honor? You call invading Iraq honor?" Mike's hands were shaking now, not with anger, but with something deeper. Pain, regret, the weight of secrets he'd carried for 14 years. "You don't know anything about what happened over there," Mike said. "Nothing." "I know enough. I know you're a war criminal who deserves to be in prison. not marching in a parade. Mike looked directly into Dylan's camera phone. "You want to know what I did in Iraq? You really want to know?" Dylan nodded eagerly, sensing he was about to get something explosive. Mike was silent for a long moment. The crowd waited, the cameras rolled. "I can't tell you," Mike said finally, "but I wish I could. Hit that like button if this story got you hooked." Dylan sensed weakness. "Can't tell me because you're ashamed? Because you know what you did was wrong?" "Can't tell you because it's classified, and because if I did, people would die." Mike turned away from Dylan and rejoined the parade formation, but the damage was done. The confrontation had been recorded from multiple angles, and Dylan immediately uploaded the video to his social media accounts with the caption, "War criminal admits he can't defend his actions. Share to expose the truth." The video went viral within hours. By evening, Mike's name and address had been doxed. His construction company was receiving threatening phone calls. Protesters gathered outside his house chanting, "War criminal and baby killer." Local news stations picked up the story. The headline on Channel 7's evening broadcast read, "Local veteran confronted at Memorial Day parade." Mike sat in his living room, watching his life fall apart on television. Elena had taken the kids to her mother's house. His boss had called to say he was suspended pending investigation of the negative publicity. But the worst part wasn't the public humiliation. The worst part was that Mike couldn't defend himself without breaking his oath and endangering the lives of people he'd sworn to protect. The secret he carried was bigger than his own reputation, and Dylan Walsh had no idea what he'd unleashed. The online harassment intensified overnight. Dylan Walsh's video had been shared 200,000 times across Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Comments ranged from support for Dylan's confrontation to death threats against Mike. "This is what happens when we celebrate war criminals," Dylan posted on his blog. "Mike Torres represents everything wrong with American militarism. He invaded a foreign country, participated in illegal combat operations, and now expects to be treated as a hero." Mike's phone rang constantly. Reporters wanted interviews. Activists wanted statements. His daughter's school called to say she'd been teased by classmates who'd seen the video. Elena returned home Tuesday morning with red eyes and a list of demands. "Tell me the truth, Mike. What really happened over there? What are you hiding?" Mike sat at the kitchen table, still wearing the same clothes from the day before. "I can't, Elena. You know I can't." "Can't or won't, because our family's being destroyed while you protect some military secret that probably doesn't matter anymore." "It matters. People are alive today because of what my unit did, and they'll stay alive as long as I keep my mouth shut." Elena slammed her coffee cup down. "What about our children? What about our life? What about us?" Mike had no answers. He'd made an oath 14 years ago, and breaking it would put innocent people in danger. But keeping it was destroying everything he cared about. The second twist came when Mike received a call from someone he hadn't spoken to in years. "Mike, it's Danny Rodriguez. I saw the video." Danny Rodriguez had been Mike's squad leader in Iraq. After discharge, he'd moved to Colorado and become a police officer. They'd stayed in touch for a few years, but had gradually lost contact. "Danny, Jesus, it's good to hear your voice. Brother, I can't believe what they're doing to you. That kid has no idea what he's talking about." "He's got a right to his opinion. His opinion is based on lies, and you're taking the heat for something that saved lives." Mike was quiet. Even talking to Danny felt like walking a tightrope over classified territory. "Mike, I've been thinking about this all night. What if we could tell the story without compromising operational security? What if we could give people enough context to understand without revealing details?" "Danny, we took an oath. I know what we swore, but I also know what we did. And I know that what's happening to you right now is wrong." Danny's call was followed by others. Luis Martinez, who'd been Mike's medic, Sarah Chen, their intelligence specialist, Tom Bradley, their demolitions expert. One by one, members of Mike's old unit reached out. They'd all seen the video. They all knew what Mike was protecting, and they were all struggling with the same question. How long do you keep a secret when keeping it destroys an innocent man's life? The media attention grew more intense. Dylan Walsh appeared on 3 cable news shows, describing Mike as a symbol of American imperialism. He started a GoFundMe campaign to expose war criminals hiding in our communities. Mike's employer, Riverside Construction, officially terminated him. "We can't have someone associated with this kind of controversy representing our company," his former boss explained. Mike's savings account had $400. Elena worked part-time as a dental hygienist, but her income couldn't cover their mortgage and expenses. They had 30 days before foreclosure proceedings would begin. The third twist came when someone leaked Mike's military records. On Wednesday afternoon, a military blog published Mike's complete service record, including his unit assignments, deployment dates, and citation narratives. The documents revealed that Mike had been involved in special operations and had received commendations for actions that cannot be disclosed for security reasons. Dylan Walsh seized on the leaked records as proof of wrongdoing. "Look at all the classified information," he posted on social media. "Look at all the secret operations. This is exactly what we're talking about when we say our military is operating without accountability." But the leaked records had the opposite effect on people who understood military operations. Veterans groups began rallying to Mike's defense. Former special operations soldiers started posting on social media about the importance of classified missions and the courage required to keep state secrets. What would you do in our hero's place? The pressure was building from all sides. Mike's family was suffering. His former unit members were watching their brother take blame for something they'd all participated in. The veteran community was demanding answers. Sarah Chen, Mike's former intelligence specialist, made the first move. She called Mike on Thursday evening. "I've been thinking about this for days," she said. "There might be a way to tell the story without compromising anything operational." "Sarah, you know we can't." "Hear me out. What if we focused on the humanitarian aspects? What if we talked about the people we helped without revealing tactical details?" The debriefing officers were clear. No details, no context, no explanations, ever. That was 14 years ago. The situation has changed. The people we protected have moved on. Their lives aren't in danger anymore. Sarah had done her research. "I contacted the State Department. The families we evacuated were all successfully relocated. They're living under new identities in safe countries. There's no operational reason to maintain secrecy about the mission." Mike felt a spark of hope for the first time in days. "You're sure?" "I'm sure, and Mike, I think it's time people knew what really happened in that school." The school. Mike hadn't allowed himself to think about it in years, but Sarah's words brought it all back. The small building on the outskirts of Fallujah, the children who'd been trapped inside, the impossible choice his unit had faced. "Sarah, if we do this, if we tell the story, there's no going back." "There's no going back anyway, brother. Dylan Walsh has made sure of that. The only question is whether you're going to let his lies define you or whether we're going to tell the truth." Mike looked around his empty house. Elena and the kids were still at her mother's place. His neighbors avoided eye contact when he went outside. His life had been destroyed by someone who had no idea what he was talking about. "What do you need from me?" "I need you to trust the team one more time. Danny, Luis, Tom, and I have been working on something. A way to tell the story that honors our oath while setting the record straight." "What kind of story?" "The truth, Mike, just the truth." That night, Mike called Elena. "I'm going to fix this," he told her. "I can't tell you how, but I'm going to fix this." "What are you going to do?" "What I should have done a long time ago. I'm going to trust my team." Friday morning brought the fourth twist that would change everything. Sarah Chen had used her intelligence contacts to verify that the families Mike's unit had rescued were safe and willing to have their story told. Danny Rodriguez had consulted with legal experts about the difference between operational security and unnecessary secrecy. Luis Martinez had reached out to veterans advocacy groups who were willing to amplify their message. But it was Tom Bradley who'd found the smoking gun that would expose Dylan Walsh for what he really was. "Mike," Tom said during their conference call, "you need to know something about your new friend Dylan Walsh. He's not just some random activist. He's being funded." "Funded by who?" "A network of organizations that specialize in attacking American veterans in military operations. They target specific individuals, create viral controversies, and profit from the chaos." Mike felt sick. "He's making money off this?" "He's making a lot of money. His GoFundMe campaign has raised $47,000. He's got book deals, speaking engagements, a documentary contract. Dylan Walsh isn't an activist, Mike. He's a professional character assassin." Mike's unit had been played. Dylan hadn't stumbled across Mike at a random parade. He'd been targeted specifically because his classified record made him vulnerable to this kind of attack. "Tom, how did you find this out?" "Because he's done it before. 6 other veterans in the past 3 years. Same pattern, same tactics, same funding sources." Mike realized that fighting back wasn't just about clearing his own name anymore. It was about stopping Dylan Walsh from destroying other veterans' lives. The team made their decision. It was time to break their silence. Sarah Chen had worked in military intelligence for 8 years. She knew how to build airtight cases and present evidence that couldn't be disputed. Over the weekend, she assembled a comprehensive dossier that would destroy Dylan Walsh's credibility while telling the truth about Mike's service. The press conference was scheduled for Monday morning at the Riverside Veterans Affairs Building. Sarah had contacted 3 major news outlets and guaranteed them an exclusive story about the real truth behind the viral Memorial Day video. Sunday night, Mike's old unit gathered in person for the first time in 6 years. Danny Rodriguez drove down from Colorado. Luis Martinez flew in from Texas. Tom Bradley came from Nevada. Sarah Chen was local, living in Los Angeles. They met at Mike's house, sitting around the same kitchen table where he'd watched his life fall apart a week earlier. "Are we really doing this?" Luis asked. "We're really doing this," Sarah confirmed. "I've prepared statements for each of us. We stick to the facts, we honor our oath, and we make sure everyone understands what kind of man Mike Torres really is." Sarah opened her laptop and showed them the presentation she prepared. Photos, documents, timeline charts, everything needed to tell their story clearly and convincingly. "The mission was October 15th, 2005, Sarah began. Fallujah had been largely pacified, but there were still insurgent cells operating in the surrounding areas. We received intelligence about a school being used as a base by foreign fighters." Mike remembered every detail. The small concrete building, the children who'd been forced to stay inside as human shields, the impossible tactical situation his unit had faced. "Intelligence indicated that the insurgents were planning to execute the children and blame it on American forces," Sarah continued. "We had 6 hours to extract 37 Iraqi children from a building rigged with explosives, surrounded by snipers, in the middle of a neighborhood where any civilian could be a combatant." Danny picked up the narrative. "Standard protocol would have been to call in air support and level the building. Clean, simple, mission accomplished. But there were kids inside." "Mike made the call," Luis added. "He said we were going in on foot. No air support, no artillery, no backup. Just us." Tom nodded. "Craziest thing I'd ever heard. 5 soldiers against an unknown number of insurgents in a fortified position. But Mike was right. Those kids were dead if we followed protocol." Sarah clicked to the next slide. Mission timeline. "The operation took 14 hours. We had to disable the explosives, neutralize the hostile forces, and evacuate the children one by one through a tunnel system that Tom had to create by hand." "Mike went in first," Danny said. "Always. Every room, every corridor, every potential ambush point. He took point because he wasn't going to ask us to take risks he wouldn't take himself." Mike had been quiet through most of the presentation, but now he spoke. "We lost contact with command for 8 hours. They thought we were all dead." "The insurgents had jamming equipment," Sarah explained. We couldn't call for backup, couldn't request extraction, couldn't even report our status. We were completely on our own. Luis described the medical challenges. 3 of the children had been shot before we arrived. 2 more were injured when we breached the building. I had to perform field surgery in a basement while Tom was digging our escape route, and Mike and Danny were clearing the upper floors. The insurgents knew we were there by hour 6, Tom said. They started firing RPGs at the building. Mike made the decision to stay and finish the evacuation, rather than retreat and regroup. Sarah showed them photos from the mission, not operational photos, but pictures taken after the evacuation was complete. 37 Iraqi children, ranging in age from 6 to 14, sitting safely in an American convoy. Every single child survived, Sarah said. Mike's decision to abandon protocol and risk everything saved 37 lives. Danny pulled out a folder full of letters. These came later, from the children's families, from Iraqi government officials, from our own command structure. Mike was recommended for the Medal of Honor. Why didn't he get it? Sarah's expression darkened. Because the mission was classified at the highest levels. The children's families were relocated for their safety. The insurgent cell we eliminated was part of a larger network that we were still tracking. Publishing details about the mission would have compromised ongoing operations and put people in danger. So Mike got a Bronze Star instead of a Medal of Honor and was ordered never to discuss the operation with anyone, including family members. Mike looked at his teammates. For 14 years, I've watched people call me a baby killer. I've listened to protesters say I murdered innocent civilians. I've let my own family think I'm ashamed of my service, because I gave my word. And you kept your word, Danny said, even when it cost you everything. Sarah closed her laptop. Tomorrow, we tell the world what really happened. We've confirmed that the families are safe, the operational security concerns are no longer relevant, and the classification level has been reduced to allow limited disclosure. What about Dylan Walsh? Tom smiled grimly. Dylan Walsh is about to learn what happens when you attack a real American hero. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next. The press conference began at 10 a.m. Monday morning. Mike sat at a table with his 4 former teammates, facing a room full of reporters and cameras. Behind them was a large screen displaying the mission timeline and photos of the rescued children. Sarah spoke first, establishing the operational context and explaining why the mission had remained classified. Danny described the tactical challenges they'd faced. Luis talked about the medical emergencies. Tom explained the technical aspects of the evacuation. Then Mike told his story. On October 15, 2005, my unit was tasked with rescuing 37 Iraqi children who were being held as human shields by foreign insurgents. We had 2 choices: follow standard protocol and call in airstrikes that would have killed the children, or risk our lives to save them. Mike's voice was steady, professional, but emotional. We chose to save the children. It took 14 hours and we nearly died doing it, but every single child survived. The room was dead silent. For 14 years, I've been unable to defend myself against accusations that I killed innocent civilians. The truth is exactly the opposite. My unit and I risked everything to save innocent civilians, and I'm proud of that service. Do you think Dylan Walsh deserves to face consequences for his lies and harassment? The questions from reporters were respectful, focused on the details of the mission and the reasons for the long secrecy. No one asked about baby killing or war crimes. Then Tom Bradley presented the evidence about Dylan Walsh. Financial records showing payments from anti-military organizations, documentation of his previous attacks on other veterans, proof that his grassroots activism was actually a profitable business model based on character assassination. The story that emerged wasn't about a war criminal being confronted by an activist. It was about a decorated hero being targeted by a professional provocateur who made money destroying veterans' lives. Dylan Walsh's world collapsed within 48 hours of the press conference. The financial documents Tom Bradley had uncovered revealed that Dylan had received over $200,000 in payments from organizations dedicated to attacking American military personnel. His GoFundMe campaign was shut down for fraud. and his university launched an investigation into his activities. The original viral video was replaced by new footage. Mike Torres receiving a standing ovation from a packed auditorium at UC Riverside, where he'd been invited to speak about the importance of classified military operations and the sacrifices made by American soldiers. Elena and the children returned home Tuesday evening. Mike's employer called Wednesday morning to offer him his job back with a promotion and a public apology. The family's GoFundMe campaign, organized by veterans groups, raised $85,000 to cover their financial losses. But the most important moment came Thursday afternoon. A package arrived at Mike's house with no return address. Inside were 37 handwritten letters in Arabic, each one professionally translated into English. They were from the children Mike's unit had rescued in Fallujah, now adults living in Canada, Australia, Germany, and the United States. Mr. Torres, one letter read, I am now a doctor in Toronto. I have 3 children of my own. Every day I remember the American soldier who saved my life. I have been waiting 14 years to thank you. Another letter was from a young woman who'd become an engineer. You carried me out of that building when I was 8 years old. I am now married with a family. My daughter's middle name is Michelle, after Mike Torres. A third letter was from a man who'd opened a restaurant in Sydney. I was 12 when you rescued us. I want you to know that 37 Iraqi children grew up to have families, careers, and good lives because of your courage. You are our hero. Mike sat in his kitchen surrounded by the letters as Elena read them over his shoulder. His children, who'd spent a week being teased about their father being a war criminal, now understood what their father had really done in Iraq. Dylan Walsh was expelled from UC Riverside and faced criminal charges for fraud and harassment. His anti-veteran organization was shut down by federal investigators. Mike Torres returned to the next Memorial Day parade, where he was Grand Marshal. This time, the only sounds from the crowd were cheers, applause, and thank you from people who finally knew the truth.